So they're just getting ready.
So crown crew dancers are all deaf. We wonder how they're going to rhyme with the beats, but let's watch. They've got the best. So they're ready.
Unatafuta dishi ya kushiba, kuna dishi fulani KDA. Ninakaa ngumu kwa Mungu, nakaa ngumu, ananifanya nitumu KDA. Ninakaa ngumu kwa Mungu, nakaa ngumu, ananifanya nitumu KDA. Siwezi toka bila breakfast. Me say FF, me tell you food fast. Food that are satisfied, food that are contrast. Domina hand, buried in him.
Na dishi anytime, any day, at a Monday. Na dishi daily, single di paka Sunday. Mr. Akija, na mpaki pande. Tuna dishi wote, tunapiga asante. Joshua, 1%. Mawadi yake, ndo vina meditate.
Bad man looking good in the air. Bad man drip to the car. Sports cars parked on the right spot. Bad man slick and you know. Bad man looking good in the air. Bad man drip to the car.
It's DJ Smollett.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Our very great dancers. The dancers who are deaf. They dance, they entertain. They make the day the best. So, to officially commence this day, ladies and gentlemen, a humble request to us all to rise, those who can. Kindly rise as we officially commence this session by the national anthem as a prayer to our nation, to the day, and for prosperity, led by the media team. The East African anthem will follow. Thank you very much. The media is not ready. The national anthem will do it for now. Kindly take your seats. Thank you. Awesome. Officially introducing your MC of the day. I am Colin Sombajo, working with Light for the World as a disability inclusion advisor. Apparently, only those that will be taking the mic today will have an opportunity to mention their names, led by the DJ, the MC of the day. When I'm not working and MCing, I prefer being called MC Calls. Calls goes by the spelling C-O-L-Z. If you don't have time to mention my names, that will do. So I'm not doing this alone as we commemorate the day of persons with disability worldwide through this special event. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you the co-MC. Find your way to the front. MC, who I believe is the tallest person in this hall. An MC who's got a vibe. An MC who is a content creator, additionally. An MC who is a disability inclusion facilitator. MC Alice Mbere. Kindly find your way to the front.
Run the rhythm. Nanza jela umu, la viliisha mapema. Mapenzi yashanidhulumu, maisha haya ya sinema. Kwani tutakula mapenzi tu, swali limenivua heshima. Ipo siku nitafaulu, na roho yangu mimi nitaikinga. Ni sasa.
Our MC Alice Mbere. Waambie, wasikize, waambie unaitwa nani?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Si tumeonyeshwa miondoko. Can I hear a nice good morning, everyone? Good morning. A powerful one. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Alice Mbere. I'm a digital influencer. I mainly create content online. You can check out my page at Alice Mbere. I'm also a disability inclusion facilitator. So today being the day that you're celebrating the Disability Day, as I was getting ready, I was thinking of so many things. And I was looking back and like, we are not where we were 10 years ago as persons with disability. The fact that we can be here, we can be seen, we can be heard, it's a big achievement. And as I was like maybe preparing to come today, I was asking myself, where was I 10 years ago? What was happening to me 10 years ago? I can tell you, maybe 10 years ago, I was being discriminated. I was being denied opportunity because I have a disability. But just to be before you this morning and be here with different stakeholders and also persons with disability, I can say to make it amaje. And just having all of us here and taking part in this conversation, I'm so proud to say tomorrow will be better. Tell your neighbor tomorrow will be better. There's a better tomorrow, sindio? So I'll be your co-MC. Tutapatana, tutavai pamoja. Umesikia, I'm a content creator, sindio? If you're a content creator, mnajua tu ni vibes after vibes. So we will be vibing and I'm so happy to see all of you here. Karibuni sana.
Co-MC, I mentioned that you could be the tallest person in the building, but there are people who may need visual description of yourself. Kindly tell us, what is your height? How do you look like?
I'm exactly 85 centimeters tall. I think I'm currently the tallest. So I'm a bit brown. So today I have a purple trouser, a two-piece with a white blouse with a bit of black, purple, and white. I also have my natural hair, so you can see it's beautiful. Can you confirm it's beautiful? So I'm just rocking my natural hair. I think that's enough description. And I'm a happy person. I'm smiling all the time. So,
Thank you very much, Co-MC. Makofi kwake. Atahakikisha siku ya leo ametutumbuiza, and as much as you get to be entertained, ensure that you visit our social handles, all pages from LinkedIn to Twitter.
Facebook.
Today Twitter is not called Twitter.
X.
I hey, Gen Z. Yes, on X.
Facebook.
Which other one? Influencer?
YouTube.
TikTok. That one.
Yeah, TikTok.
Okay. Yes, make sure you pronounce this loudly on the socials so that people get to know that we are commemorating this day in style here and ensuring that disability inclusion works. So as we continue visiting our social handles to populate this function today, I'd wish to welcome to the front the representative from FKE who has partners with us to ensure that they bring on board diverse partners, employers from the different divides to come commemorate with us this day. A brief introduction of them you will just be mentioning, I know, so that you will also give us a brief opening remark and then pass it on to Light for the World. Karibu sana. As it comes, I also didn't give a visual description of myself. I am a person with albinism. I am tall, the tall, factual tall. I am 5'9". I am dressed in a parliament blue suit with a black black shirt and a maroon bow tie. I believe I'm smart. So I will also be partnering with the influencer MC to ensure that this day is a success. Asanteni sana. Makofi to the FKE for ensuring this day is participated and fully represented. Karibu sana.
The conqueror, the champion, the lion is here.
All protocols observed. Let me start by mentioning my name. I might not be like Coles, because he really gave a good introduction of himself, how he can be identified. My name is William Wandera. I work for FKE in the Advocacy, Consulting and Partnerships Department, and I'm here to represent our Executive Director. Just in case you cannot identify me, I have glasses. I'm not so tall, but I'm 1.67 meters. I'm wearing a black suit with a red colored tie, and I have specs. So that is my description for now. Thank you. So I also have my colleagues here. I have Maureen, who is also who supports us in policy and advocacy unit. We are also to have Helen in marketing, membership and marketing. She will be here. But on behalf of FKE, I want to thank members who have, on short notice, really been very supportive just to come for this workshop. So, that said and done, let me just read the speech that I was given by our CEO, who knows that this event is happening here, who gave us her blessings, because today she's engaged in we are having a board members induction workshop, so she was not able to join us, but she would have really liked to be here, because this is a very important day for us as FKE and employers. So allow me to read her speech. So, and our CEO is called Madam Jacqueline Mugo, for those who don't know her, and she's also the president of International Organization of Employers, and also the Secretary General of Business Africa. Business Africa is the employer organizations in Africa, and the International Organization of Employers is now all employers in the world. So that is her position. So let me read her speech. Distinguished guests, partners, employers, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And welcome to this important celebration of International Day of Persons with Disabilities. On behalf of the Federation, I am honored to join you today as we reflect on the progress we have made and the work that still lies ahead in building truly inclusive societies. This year's theme, Fostering Disability Inclusive Societies for Advancing Progress, reminds us that inclusion is not just a moral imperative, it's a strategic advantage. When we create workplaces where persons with disabilities can fully participate and thrive, we unlock innovations, strengthen organization performance, and build resilient teams that reflect diversity of our nation. Allow me to extend our heartfelt appreciation to our partner, Light for the World, for their unwavering commitment and collaboration in making today's event possible. Your dedication to promoting disability inclusion and empowering persons with disability is an inspiration and a driving force behind the progress we celebrate today. We recognize the Kenya Business and Disability Network, an initiative championed by FKE and other partners, which provides a platform for employers to share best practices, learn, implement disability inclusive policies. Through KBDN and with the partnership with the National Council of Persons with Disability, we created a career portal. And this career portal creates a link between job seekers with disabilities and employers. There is a wise African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This captures the essence of our mission today. Disability inclusion is a journey that none of us can walk alone. It requires collective effort where employers, policymakers, development partners, and communities work hand in hand to dismantle barriers and create opportunities. At FKE, we believe that employers have a pivotal role in driving this change. As a federation, we have taken deliberate steps to promote diversity and inclusion across all workplaces. One of our key initiatives is integration of diversity and inclusivity as a major category in our Employer of the Year awards. And to this, there are some employers who won. And we had expected that the winners would be here, but unfortunately, because of other engagements, they might not be here. But in that category, for those who participated, you realize that there's that category, and all those who attended the Employee of the Year Awards ceremony, that is something that we really cherish. This category recognizes organizations that go beyond compliance to embed inclusion as a core business principle, inspiring others to lead by example. Additionally, FKE has been piloting a program called School to Labor Transition. So here we are encouraging, we are trying to bring TVETs, students with disabilities, and connect them with employers. We started this in Kisumu, and maybe moving forward, and I know Light for the World is keen on this. We have also partnered with them, so we'll be knocking on your doors to see how we can even also bring it here. So this program aims at connecting students with disabilities in TVET institutions to employers through internships and attachment. So these efforts are practically measures aimed at bridging the gap between education and employment for persons with disabilities, ensuring equal opportunities and fostering inclusive growth. I want, therefore, to reiterate that disability inclusion is not a charity. It is about equity, opportunity, and tapping into a rich pool of talent that can transform businesses and communities. Inclusive practices enhance corporate reputation, align with the national laws, global commitments, and position employers as leaders in a sustainable development. Today events brings together employers, policymakers, persons with disabilities, and development partners. It is a platform for dialogue, learning, and collaboration. Let us use this opportunity to share the experiences, challenge barriers, and commit to practical steps that will make our workplaces and societies more inclusive. This gathering here today, therefore, is therefore more than a celebration. It is a call to action. To all employers here today, let us commit to concrete steps such as reviewing our recruitment policies, investing in accessible infrastructure, providing reasonable accommodation, and championing a culture of inclusion. These actions are not just good for business, they are good for Kenya, good for our economy, and good for humanity. As we celebrate, let us remember that inclusion is a journey. It requires intentional policies, accessible infrastructure, and a culture that provides every individual's contribution. Together we can advance social progress and ensure that no one is left behind. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Your presence here today is a testament for your commitment to equity, decent work, and sustainable development in Kenya. Let's go far together. Let's make disability inclusion a reality, not just for today, but for generations to come. Thank you very much. Madam Jacqueline Mugo. And I know the MC said I welcome the representative of the Light for the World. Karibu sana.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning once again. Okay, thank you. My name is Richard Mativu. I work with Light for the World as a country director. And this morning I'm elated to be before everyone today. I believe we all know what we are celebrating on 3rd December, do we? Who doesn't know which day it is today? Today you can see it's the International Day of Persons with Disability. And that is a very important word, the word of. Never forget, not for. Sometimes we mistake the moment you change off to be for, it comes out as something different altogether. And you can all see the theme for this year's International Day for Persons with Disability. But before I give my remarks, I'd love to recognize our team. We have Light for the World members of staff in the room. Please, I request you to stand up wherever you are. Light for the World team, thank you, thank you. So we do not have time to introduce you, but I believe wherever you are seated on the desk, please, if you have any question, that's our team. Please feel free to speak with them. Now, my remarks will just be simple. This being a day recognizing the gains we've made in the disability community, I would like to just give something small to the employers here, the human resource managers, officers, directors in the room. Disability is something that many a times we always say disability inclusion, and it's a matter of values, and we always say that we are inclusive as an employer. But when it comes to it, are we really inclusive? So I've heard what has been shared by the CEO for FKE, and I'll just be building on a few. That our organization is one of the few organizations leading on disability inclusion. And we have very many programs focused on employment or economic empowerment for persons with disability. And the reason that we do this is we've recognized there are barriers out there, that we have persons with disability already equipped with the right skills, competitive skills, but they're still struggling to get jobs, to get meaningful jobs. And the main reason is we have some barriers. Some barriers are attitudinal, some barriers are physical infrastructure, then we have the social ones. But two being people with power, people who normally review applications, people who normally do the whole process of recruitment. I do not want to say we are blaming you. No, we do not blame because we are all learning. Personally, I've also been learning. Every day is a learning day for me. And I'm sure I can learn a lot from each and every one of you. But there are organizations who are ready to walk the journey with partners. And we've been having these programs that support employers. We have worked with employers to support them, including what we call accessibility audit. That is an audit that people come to your office, they review, assess your physical infrastructure. Then also, we also take you through a review of your policies and any other thing within the office, just to see whether your policies are inclusive, your infrastructure is inclusive, and after that, we can come up with a disability inclusion action plan, just to show you what you need to do in the short run and in the long run. Then, if you really want to employ persons with disability, we will support you and show you what you need to do, including a guide on reasonable accommodation, which is the manner that we do not really, that employers do not have disproportionate and undue burden. Perhaps if you have a person who is deaf, You might not need to employ 3, 4 interpreters. You might even not need to employ an interpreter. We can show you how you can have an interpreter on call basis. You do not need to dismantle a whole building just to accommodate an employee. We show you how this can be done in a manner that it is not a big burden on you as an employer. Recently, we had a meeting with Public Service Commission, and you all do know the law provides that we have the new Disability Act signed by the President in May this year. And there is a provision that any employer with over 20 employees, both public and private, must ensure at least 5% of those employees are persons with disability. And that's the current law. In other words, I'm not scaring you, but I'm just telling you where we are working in. That is the current law, and the beauty around the new Disability Act. Discrimination is now a crime. It has been criminalized, so there'll be adjustment orders given by the National Council for Persons with Disability. Soon expect people to come to your organization and challenge you because the law is there. But again, there are organizations who can support you on how to ensure inclusion because again, we've seen employers not that much excited to onboard persons with disability, reason being, our labor court is very progressive and protective of people, of the employees. So we've seen employers a bit careful not to infringe on rights of their employees. So you are worried if you employ someone with disability, it might be hard if you can't meet their needs and to end up being on the wrong side of the law. But we can show you how you can manage this, how you can ensure an inclusive workplace. Now for this, Public Service Commission, so far in the public service, currently with a 5% employment quota, currently they are at 1.8. That is how many years. This provision was already established in the Constitution and also the older Disability Act 2003. So in other words, we are over 20 years down the line because that was 2003, now it's 2025. You can imagine we are still at 1.8. So it's a progressive thing, it's progressive, that's what the law provides. But 1.8 for me, we could have done better. I believe now with you as inclusion champions, we can all do better, especially in the private sector. Again, something in relation to that, on top of that legal requirement, I believe today being a day on disability, I should just give you a crash course in a few minutes, just a few things on disability. Because I believe you all know what is disability from English. Matters of semantics, I know you understand disability. But from a social perspective or from an inclusion perspective, if someone asks you what is disability, always say it is an impairment plus barrier. Remember that if you have an impairment and there is no barrier, that is not disability. But the moment there is a barrier, then that is a disability. The impairment should be long-term. If you've just had an accident and you broke your femur bone, maybe you are using a wheelchair, that is 6 months to 1 year. You can't say you are a person with disability because after a few months, you'll be back on your feet. You see, should be long-term. That is just disability. The second item that I want to share is we have some models of disability, and they will always affect the lens that you see things from. And I'm going to pick 4. There are many, there are over 10. But you can always Google, you'll see many. But I'll pick 4 for obvious reasons. The first one, we have the charity model, the PT. That is a model of understanding disability where people feel that as long as you have a disability, you should not struggle to work. You should not struggle to wake up, to go to school, to go and work from 8 to 5. That is not fair. God is watching us. It's not a good thing. We'll get a curse if you make your brother work. You see? So there'll be people who are very happy to give a beggar with disability 100 shillings. Na nampea bila shida. But the moment that beggar wants to wash your car, you are like, no, you should never struggle. Let me give him, he can jump, he can walk, he can see. But for you, just sit here is 100, you don't need to work. You see? That is that attitude, that is that model where you see from that perspective. A good example, when I became deaf many years ago, the University Senate sat me down and requested me. They requested me to change my unit from economics and become a teacher. And it's not bad being a teacher, but their motivation was, if I become a teacher, I can teach deaf children in sign language. Why should I struggle in the other part of the society? Yet I can just conveniently teach deaf children who can't hear like me. You see that notion? That is just thinking what is comfortable. Many programs many years ago, they were thinking if you use a wheelchair, just go to these courses where you just need to sit down, become a telephone operator where you don't need to walk all over. So that is that model. The other one is the medical. Medical is very easy. Someone sees that some functions are not operating, you need assistance from a medical perspective. The doctor expects your eyes to function, your nervous system to function in a particular manner. So they see you as someone who needs fixing, who needs surgeries, who needs a lot of help. That is that model. So it should have a balance. There are those impairments that you can alleviate, that you can minimize the impact of someone. But the problem is, if you have an approach in policy development, any development program where you see people who just need medical intervention, not all disabilities can be assisted through medical intervention. You can manage and live and actualize yourself the way you are. You see, the other one is the social model. This is not very old, and it has been well embraced by the disability advocates. And the main reason is this is a model that appreciates your impairment and the interaction of that impairment with the society. In other words, it is in a way placing the blame on the environment around you. That environment is what makes you struggle. It's what gives those barriers to yourself. That is the social model, but recently we have a model that is well embraced, that we advocate for, and that Light for the World stands by. This is the human rights model. Human rights model does not segregate, does not separate special groups. You come up with laws, policies for everyone. In other words, from a human rights model, every law is for everyone. That's why when I go to meetings and you ask people laws regarding disability, and I see people just picking the specific laws on disability, I get surprised. Because every policy, every law that is being developed is inclusive for everyone. You cannot say because we have maybe a law against torture, you say that does not apply to disability. There are persons with disability who can also get tortured. You see? So human rights model is for everyone. Every law does not exclude persons with disability. That's why you'll always see that we do not discriminate again on the basis of maybe disability, gender, sexual orientation, hizo zote. You get me? Those are the 4 models. Now, as I come to the end of what I wanted to say, let me add something on inclusive language, because there will be a lot of interaction here. Please, when you speak, use the phrase persons with disability, not persons living with disability. That has always been misused. Persons with disability do not live with the impairment or the disability. You see what I mean? They live with their communities, they live with their families, but when it's HIV, it's a virus, it's alive, it's living in you. You get me? But is an impairment alive? Is it a parasite? It's not. So you just have the disability, you don't live with it. Please use that one. When you also speak words like normal, I met a normal person when I was normal. No, use maybe a disabled person. Don't say a normal person because the opposite gives the wrong impression. So I just thought those two words are always misused in forums. That is it now. Moving forward, I just want to say light for the world in our new strategic plan 20, Vision 2030. We have that. We are very keen on supporting partners, and I want to say that we are very much willing to support you at a small fee. We have those programs which are donor funded, but we all recognize that donors are also scaling down. Foreign aid is reducing. So we know you all pay for consultancies, and we want to say that we also have that model where we are able to work with partners on anything that you want: diversity, inclusion, updating your policies, conducting accessibility audits at a small fee, and all the money that we generate is pumped back to our work. We do not share the money, no, the money goes back to what we do. Our mandate supports communities. So we'll be very happy to follow up with you if you feel that your organization wants to go through that journey. I didn't have much to say today because there will be another speaker who will talk about what we do at Light for the World. But I would love to leave you with one small verse which says, inclusion is not about making the room for persons with disability or any other person, but it's about recognizing that the room was never complete without persons with disability. Thank you, and allow me to introduce my colleague, Lucy Nyaga. We work together and she'll be giving her remarks. Lucy, karibu.
Everything you put your hand go walk. Your name go open doors. You self go be a boss. Amen. Amen. Everything you put your hand go walk. Your name go open doors. You self go be a boss. Amen. Amen. Every hustler getting paid. Where the hustle go come to pay. Your own in no go take. Amen. If you don't find work, do your own. God self go do his own. And flesh go cover bone. Amen. Amen. If you believe.
This is working, okay, thank you. So as we wait for the technical aspects of it, allow me to then make my introduction, or just briefly say who I am. My name has been mentioned by Richard, but my name is Lucy Nyaga. I work for Light for the World. I am the International Director of Programs. I oversee our programs across the continent where we work. I'll be telling you briefly what we do and where we work, but I'm overseeing our programs in 6 countries where we are currently doing our disability inclusion and eye health work. We are working in Kenya, we are working in Uganda, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Mozambique, and Burkina Faso. So I'm saying this because I know my audience today, and my audience, being employers, may have your offices and representation there. So as I make my presentation, just have in mind where we are working. So yeah, the technical bits I think are ready, and I'll go on with the rest of my presentation, which is going to be very brief and basically letting you know what we do. And finally, I'll do an ask from you. So, yes, about our organization at Light for the World, our vision, mission, and what we do, I'll give you briefly what it is. we believe in a world where people with eye conditions and disability can fully exercise their rights to health, education, work, and protection in emergencies. And we believe in sparking lasting change on disability rights and eye health. And in our work, our approach is working with communities who we believe are the drivers of change. We also support organizational change, which has been mentioned a bit, by Richard. And we are also working to influence policy and systems change so that we can have, an achievement of our mission, which is the sparking of lasting change in disability inclusion and our eye health. And as we do this, again, referring to my colleague Richard in terms of what we do, we believe in a sustainable way of doing things through a human rights approach in our work, through our values of being respectful, accountable, and including everyone in learning. That's how we conduct our work to achieve our mission in eye health and disability rights. So broadly, that's what we are, what we believe in, and how we do our work in terms of our approach as Light for the World. So allow me to just briefly again go through our key areas of focus, which I've already mentioned and have been included in our, in our overview as an organization. We are working in eye health. We are working in neglected tropical diseases, that's the NTDs, and we are also working in disability rights in all the countries that I've mentioned. How we work, again, mentioning our partners, we also work with other stakeholders in aiming to sustainably strengthen local capacity and the quality of the programs in the thematic areas that we do in eye health and disability rights, as well as in neglected tropical diseases. We are also aiming at, and we do actually achieve, impactful and accessible programs so that we ensure that all the programs that we do are accessible to persons with disabilities, and we aim to transform systems and policies and the financing to deliver widespread, sustainable, lasting change. We also make disability rights and eye health a reality for all. That's our focus, and that's how we do our programming as Light for the World. Allow me now to just give you an overview based on the day's theme and the day's focus, and as well as the audience, to just give you a snippet of our programs, basically here in Kenya, that touch on ensuring that persons with disability have access to dignified work, and for which we will be, if already we have not come to your organization, be seeking support to work together through supporting you, to build your systems to include persons with disability, or, supporting you to ensure that persons with disability are offered dignified work. So I'll start with one of our flagships program. Probably many of you have heard about it or have been involved in it. We call it the Weekend Work Program. This is our flagship program running until the year 2030, and it is supported by the MasterCard Foundation. And we are working in this program across 7 countries in Africa and looking to expand to about 20 more in the coming year. And Kenya is one of our core countries that we're implementing the Weekend Work Program. Our aim or our target with the Weekend Work Program is that by 2030, we will have 1 million young men and women with disability accessing dignified and fulfilling work. So that's a big number in the few years, and based on the experience that we have, and saying again, like Richard said, and many of us know, that we are still learning. And our co-DJ also mentioned here again, 10 years back and where we are now, things have changed, but still we have a long way to go. So that's why I think 1 million is a big number based on what we need to do. And how we do this, we are going to have the young people that we are targeting being the drivers of positive change around disability inclusion. And part of it is being engaged in employment and gainful work, whether it's business, whether it's entrepreneurship, going through school. So we are going to have them really being at the forefront of driving change around disability inclusion. They are going to do this and through our support, and of course support with our stakeholders, who you are, to have startups, to have agribusinesses, to grow their enterprises, but also to assess waged employment. As well, part of who we work with, non-governmental organizations, have different programs that they work with. So we aim to influence, or to rather work with other programs that are not necessarily, disability inclusion programs. We have maternal newborn health programs. We have other, donors supporting different programs. But we aim that we can, educate or train that those other programs do as well include persons with disability. One of the key programs that is happening is through the MasterCard Foundation, which is called the Young Africa Works, which they support different, aspects or different implementations. And part of that is ensuring that all the programs that they support through the Young Africa Work programs has at least 5% of persons with disabilities targeted. And that's how we will be able to reach our 1 million, women and men, young men and women with disabilities to gain, meaningful work and enterprises. As well, through the Weekend Work program, we will be contributing to national and regional advocacy processes so that the inclusion aspect, disability inclusion aspect is embedded in laws, in systems and processes, at, regional bodies, national bodies and governments, all the way down to our, let's say county governments, to ensure that persons with disability or governments or people in power do and are fully aware of the inclusion of persons with disability in every aspect of life and in legal terms. I'll also talk so that's one of our key programs where we will be and are already engaging with some of you, and which we aim that you will support us in ensuring that we have inclusive systems and processes and persons with disability within the employment ecosystem. We also have another key program that we're implementing here in Kenya, which is called the RISE, which is supported by the Standard Chartered Bank. And our target here is 1,000 youths will gain employability and life training skills by 2027, because our program, this program, the RISE program, is running until 2027. There are two key areas that we are looking at with the RISE program. And the first is that youth with or without disability are able to enter decent wage work, or they have the skills to have self-employment activity. And the second aspect of the RISE program is that employers, we will be able to build the capacity of employers to provide inclusive, supportive work environment for youth with disabilities. So again, with regard to the first aspect where youth are able to assess, dignified work, we are looking at aspects such as career growth plans, establishing them. We are also looking at training participants to support progress and career growth plans as well. And we are going to talk about, or to be working with both youth and the employers to have them mentored so that they are able to adequately fit into the employment field. And we are going to be engaging institutions of higher education, where we are going to be training them to support persons with disability with skills such that when they are through, then they are able to enter gainfully into the employment market. So again, our targets there are youth and persons with disability, where we are targeting that 300 youth will receive job shadowing, another 300 youth will be mentored, another 300 will receive internship opportunities, and others placed into gainful and dignified employment. We are targeting that 200 employers will receive disability inclusion training. We will work with them so that they are fully aware and able to, include disability inclusion skills and processes and systems to be able to bring in persons with disability or people with disability into their organization as employees, equal employees with persons without disabilities. And we are looking at having 16 institutions of higher learning, the same way, working with them, supporting them to build an ecosystem that enables them to have persons with disability go through higher education. So that's our second program, which will directly touch on what you do, and we are hoping as well to be working with you on this. So, as I said, it's a very brief presentation, and I wanted to make you aware of the programs, actual things that we are doing as Light for the World in terms of supporting persons with disability, but as well working with employers so that when the persons with disabilities are empowered, when they have the skills, then they have the next phase of where do we, fit in. So we have, as Light for the World, a call to action for you who are in this room today to commit to inclusive hiring. We are ready again to work with you the journey, to support you so that inclusive hiring does not have to be a burden for you. As it was mentioned, it's something that is, that is a moral obligation, and it's also something embedded in our, in our legal systems, in our law in Kenya. So we are happy and able to support you in this. So we'll be asking you to commit to this. As well, asking you to build accessible workspaces, costs, yes, but as a lot of rewards for you as an organization from every perspective, both a legal perspective, moral perspective, and we are happy to support you in this. But this is a request that we are putting forward to you. Then we also are requesting that you commit to train staff on disability inclusion. Again, we can offer this support in training, because when persons with disabilities then come into your organization, they should be able to fit in and work with the others. Yes, we know, and we have come a far way, but there are still a lot of work to do to train others so that we are able to integrate persons with disability into our work environment. So this is another call to action that we are able to support, and we are asking you as well to be able to be ready to train persons working in the organization or your employees to be able to work with persons with disability. Then in terms of also strengthening your workplace policies, borrowing from our legal framework and from our law, and we are asking you to open, or we are requesting you that you open internship, apprenticeship, and graduate trainee programs, because this way we will be able then to achieve that which we endeavor to, that every person is included in a meaningful way to earn a living and to be able to contribute to development in our country. So this is our call, and we are ready to support you, to work with you. As a way forward, we will be reaching out, as we've always been doing so, to work through the programs that exist, but also to support where you need support so that you are able to have inclusive places for engagement meaningfully of persons working with disability. And we are here to support you all the way to the end. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my brief presentation. Thank you, and back to you, MC.
So, as we prepare the next speaker, I want you to emulate a clapping system that we usually do at Light for the World, so that you will never be mean again with the clapping for such powerful talks that enhance disability inclusion worldwide. So as I do this, I request that the stage be cleared for the next item. And Dennis and Smollett, Walter Kama, kindly do this. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to recognize FKE, the Federation of Kenyan Employers, for making this day work. Bwana Wandera, kindly rise. Additionally, allow me to comment about the strong partnership between FKE and Light for the World. Bwana Mativo, kindly rise. Additionally, allow me to commend Madam Lucy for the powerful talk about our program and the way we implement and partner with different employers. The partnership with FKE has made this happen, and we've reached the diverse pool of potential employers of persons with disability, employers who are already practicing disability inclusion, and those with goodwill for disability inclusion. Madam Lucy, please rise. So the clap will go like this. It's emulating thunder, and before thunder, there's usually lightning. So we will, when I mention milpolo is a Luo word meaning lightning. I'll mention milpolo, you'll do one clap. Milpolo, you'll do another clap. And then morpolo, you will do diverse claps. You can shout, you can roll like thunder, you can stamp your feet, you can do the signing clap as the thunder rolls. So as we give a clap and appreciation to the powerful word that has been given here, we go milpolo, 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 morpolo. Asante sana. So you realize that one is not a clap that is demeaning. It's a clap that appreciates the powerful talk. So what do we have next, co-MC?
So up next, we have a dance group that showcases creativity, diversity, emphasizing the talent within the disability community. And so with that said, I want to welcome the Ifike dancers.
Ifike, the stage is yours.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are called Dance into Space, and what we're doing is called Ifike, which is a project that has been running in Nairobi for a few months now. We are a pioneering contemporary dance company that is committed to inclusion and creativity and social impact. We are founded on the belief that everybody carries a story to tell with their bodies. And from diverse cultural, physical, and social backgrounds, we create performances that entertain and educate our audiences. So now we're going to show you a small excerpt of what we have been showing around Nairobi. It is kind of a setup, but also improvised, called Ifike. Asanteni sana. Karibuni.
Imefika haijafika? Imefika haijafika? Thank you very much, Ifike Dance Crew.
Yeah, tunaitwa Ifike Dance vile mmetuona. Najipata Instagram, TikTok na pia zile media zote bete, so mnaweza tufollow. Tunakuanga na type of people with disability. Tunatuona director wetu Mr. Odenge na Mr. Kama pia. Shukran.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know you will have additional time to showcase more of your dance. I know the Ifike will Fika International, will Fika at the national levels and at the various platforms that entertainment is inclusive. Asanteni sana, Ifike. So, right about now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me, with utmost humility, to call upon our keynote speaker, Bwana Lawrence Mute. And Bwana Lawrence Mute, as he comes, co-MC, please tell us who is Bwana Mute.
So Lawrence Muruge Mute is a managing partner in Mute and Songa Advocates LLP. He's also a lecturer at the Faculty of Law of the University of Nairobi. Mute was one of the founding commissioners of the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, 2003 to 2012. He also served as a commissioner of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, 2013 to 2020, where he became its vice chairperson. Mute played a leading role in drafting the African Disability Protocol. His research interests include the disability rights, equality, and human rights.
What a way to welcome Bwana Mute, our keynote speaker for today. Karibu sana. It is an honor to have you and speak to the diverse pool of potential employers of persons with disability as we commemorate the International Day of Persons with Disability. Karibu sana.
Good morning, colleagues, friends. You know, I actually thought I was speaking a little later in the morning, so the theme of my, no, actually, let me start differently. So the theme for this year's International Day for So I was saying that the theme for this year's International Day for Persons with Disabilities is fostering disability inclusive societies for advancing social progress. Now, this morning, I want to address you on the theme, and I'm calling that theme, Nothing About Work Without Us. So, nothing about work without us. So, I in particular want to focus on how employers, and I should also say how employees, can leverage on reasonable accommodation measures to ensure the dignified inclusion and participation of persons with disabilities in the workplace. So that is what I wish to focus on. Now, during this day, the 3rd of December, stakeholders and allies of persons with disabilities, I think, do need, and this is what I'm suggesting to you, that they do need to recognize the significant lack of knowledge and capacity by public and private employers on the meaning and implications of the duty to provide reasonable accommodation. Now, employers, and of course you tell me perhaps I'm wrong, but employers assume that providing reasonable accommodation measures is onerous, it's hard, it's tough, and that providing reasonable accommodation actually detracts from their core business. And so even in the public sector as an employer, you might say that your core business is providing services, public services. Even in the private sector, you might say that your core business is, among others, or mostly perhaps making a profit. I don't know, you tell me. Now, I recall a while ago, a manager who came back to me. So this was my manager, my work manager. He came back to me and he said, Lawrence, can you please rewrite your request using other terms? Because when you request for reasonable accommodation, my colleagues think you want them to give you a house to live in. So, a reasonable accommodation, so you want accommodation. So we have to figure staff quarters and things like those. Now, that's a context. Now, early this year, the Persons with Disabilities Act of 2025 came into force after being enacted by Parliament. As I will show you, this new law provides a solid basis for the public and private sectors to ensure the dignified inclusion and participation of persons with disabilities in the workplace. However, before I remark on the pertinence of that new legal framework on the provision of reasonable accommodation, I think it's important to backtrack for a moment away from the law, because I think far too often we overemphasize the law. So too often, it is not the law that drives the discrimination and stigmatization that persons with disabilities face in the workplace. Rather, it is the social assumptions and stereotypes that society holds against persons with disabilities that determine whether an applicant with a disability is hired by an employer or whether the terms of a worker with a disability are at par with her non-disabled peers. And when I speak about society, I speak about you and me. I speak about the social, I speak about human beings. But I think you also need to recognize that now suddenly, we're also speaking about artificial intelligence. We are speaking about AI tools which are used for purposes of recruitment. But those AI tools are also developed by humans, which therefore means that also the prejudices which humans hold then also become transferred into those AI solutions. Now, many Kenyan employers, I think, remain reticent to employ people with disabilities because of the assumptions that they are unfit for working life, they are incapable of carrying out tasks, perhaps that they are better off in protected environments, such as sheltered workshops. Now, this discrimination, this stigmatization is manifest in the low numbers of persons with disabilities who are employed, in both the private sector, but also in the public sector. And I think, Richard gave some figures on that. So that is why legal and regulatory frameworks then intervene to ensure that persons with disabilities are not discriminated during recruitment or in the workplace. So provisions then of reasonable accommodation measures play a key role in enabling persons with disabilities to work on the basis of equality with their non-disabled peers. Yet, the idea and practice of reasonable accommodation remains ill understood both by employers and also, dare say, by employees, including employees who have disabilities. Society tends to assume that reasonable accommodation measures are prohibitively costly. In addition, society assumes that reasonable accommodation measures detract from an employer's core business, as I said, which may usually entail either service provision in the public classic sense or profit making in the instance of the private sector, or a lot of the private sector. Yet, consider, and I invite you, and actually we could have local examples, but I invite you to consider the example of physicist Stephen Hawking. Now, his disability did not diminish his contributions. Rather, his workplace accommodations enabled him to excel. So, of course, we can speak about excellence, and we speak about excellence in respect of people without disabilities, but you can also speak about excellence in respect of people with disabilities. But actually, the case I would make is different. That the point is not only about extraordinary individuals. So the challenge is not about what we do with extraordinary individuals. Employers must prioritize inclusion for all employees, disabled or non-disabled, because it is the collective workforce that sustains any organization. So when people speak about team players, so it's not only a Messi or Ronaldo, it's about also that journeyman who plays at the core of the team and who is in the team from time to time or they are not. I mean, that's a workforce you're looking for. So that then, when we think about the law, so the Persons with the Disabilities Act, it establishes a legal framework under which employers should exercise their duty to provide reasonable accommodation to their employees. The Act prohibits employers from discriminating against persons with disabilities in job application procedures, hiring, advancement, and other terms, conditions, and privileges of employers. The Act elaborates this prohibition of discrimination by obligating employers to take certain positive measures and to avoid certain negative measures. So that the positives which you take, the negatives which you must not take. So the positive measures employers should take include formulating policies and programs to improve working conditions and enhance employment opportunities for persons with disabilities. And also carrying out appropriate modifications in their work premises to accommodate the employment of persons with disabilities. And then there are the negative measures which employers must not take, must avoid, including not to discriminate on account of disability when recruiting. The Act also prohibits employers from conducting any test or examination to establish whether an applicant is a person with a disability or as to the nature or severity of the person's disability. So, for example, when you're in the interview room, you're recruiting, it cannot be, okay, so I see you are blind. Tell us about your blindness. It has to be about the job. It has to be about, so in the same way that you'd ask any other person, so tell us, how would you do this job, etc., in the same way that you would have asked any other person. So then, colleagues and friends, building the capacities of employers on the meaning and implications of the duty to provide reasonable accommodation is essential. And, I think that's a conversation which is happening on a day like this, but also it is a conversation that needs to happen all the time, actually. So, there's what the Act says. And, I can tell you what the Act says, for example, how it defines reasonable accommodation. But you see, we need to move further from that. So specifically, when you look at the Act, the Act and its definition of reasonable accommodation, necessary and appropriate modification and adjustments, not imposing a disproportionate or undue burden, where needed in a particular case to ensure to persons with disabilities the enjoyment or exercise on an equal basis with others of all human rights and fundamental freedoms. Now, an important element of this definition is that reasonable accommodation is negotiated on a case-by-case basis. Even workers with apparently similar disabilities, in fact, may require different reasonable accommodation. So the example I usually make is some of my most accomplished friends who also are blind don't know Braille. They do not know Braille at all. So if you then invite my good friend Jimmy, who does all our IT work, who tells us all about all the software we need as blind users. So if he comes into this room, and we are seated, me and Jimmy, and you're excited because you brailled a couple of programs and you give it to me and to Jimmy, and you think you've sorted us, blind folk, you'll actually find that I am happy I have a Braille copy, and Jimmy is not happy. So, accommodations, reasonable accommodations, you always need to keep in mind that it's on a case-by-case basis, and people who have apparently the same disabilities, in fact, may actually require different types of accommodations. So then the question becomes, how might reasonable accommodation measures look like in the workplace? How might they look like in the workplace? And the point I wish to make is, yes, of course, you can speak about expense and cost, but actually the assumption that reasonable accommodation measures necessarily are expensive, again, is not correct. So take an administrative assistant who has a mobility disability that causes difficulty with filing and carrying heavy reports. You don't recruit an administrative assistant to carry reports, to heavy reports. So how employers and her employer then, what they would need to do is reallocate filing and carrying heavy reports, which is a non-essential task, to the other team members, so that she can concentrate on the essential task, for which she is hired. Take an accountant with a hearing disability who has difficulty speaking on the telephone. His employer sensitizes his colleagues to the disability. And the accountant may communicate, via things like email or written messages, or using assistive communication technology, or perhaps even using human assistants. Take a teacher with psychosocial disability who finds it difficult to concentrate earlier in the day. The principal of her school would then simply schedule so that her lessons take place later in the day. She will still carry her due weight, but she will do it later in the day rather than earlier in the day. Take a highly skilled and competent call center manager with a physical disability who has difficulty opening doors around the premises. We are not saying that when you hire such a person, then you have to move house, because of course you can't just move house. That will be an undue burden, quite likely. But supposing then you're moving offices anyway. So when the company is in a position and it's moving into new space, because that wasn't about this person, about many other dynamics, The call center manager then is consulted and care is taken to provide an accessible or to make sure that you're in an accessible. And finally, take a lawyer who is blind. And again, his firm, or, you can have conversations about, personal assistance. And personal assistance can double as many things. You can have a personal assistant who is a guide, who is a driver, who is a reader. You know what is interesting? As I come to the end, near the end of my conversation, I think I had a time limit. So what is interesting is, so as was said at the beginning, I served as a commissioner at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. We started the commission in 2003. 2003. I think what is interesting now is when you look at the number of staff who are attached to a commissioner, and we have many commissioners, all these constitutional offices. Most likely you'll have a minimum of 2, and you quite likely have more than 2, 3, or 4. So you'll have a driver, you'll have a guard or security person. I'm not sure what the point of that is. I'm sure there is a point to it. You'll have an assistant. So those are at least 3. Now, when we started the commission, one of the things my colleagues and I told the government was that, no, we would self-drive. We do not want drivers to drive our cars. And we also said, no, we also don't want police. We don't want security officers. So effectively, you had, I think we were 9. You had 7 of my colleagues self-driving. You had one colleague who said, no, I'm not self-driving, so she did not drive. And then you had me. And what I figured was, actually, I think I can also work only with one person. So, you have a driver, and you make sure you recruit so that you have a driver who can also be your assistant in other ways. He can be your reader, he can be your researcher, he can be, all those sorts of things. The point I'm making is that the assumption that it's disabled people who will walk around this big coterie of assistants and assistants is not particularly, it's not necessarily correct, particularly in the context of some of the, I think, problematic things that happen within a lot of the public service, and I suspect also within possibly the higher echelons of some of the private sector. So as I conclude, I think the mantra, nothing about work without us, invites employers and employees to explore how they may leverage on duties, such as the provision of reasonable accommodation measures to ensure the dignified inclusion and participation of persons with disabilities in the workplace. It is essential that employers start to curate and share good practices on the reasonable accommodation measures they provide to employees who so request. And again, also I'm saying that it is high time that employers recognize that diverse workforces are good for business, that products and services have often been reimagined by workers with disabilities to the great benefit of all. So finally, I should say, as was introduced, I am a partner at Mute and Songa, and also as part of the work which we do, we're quite happy to keep and continue having conversations with yourselves, around, various capacities and things that we can assist with towards making this a better place, making inclusion an everyday thing around the world. Thank you so much.
Milpulu, 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 more Pulu. Thank you very much, Commissioner Lawrence Mute. Quite powerful, and the essence of reasonable accommodation in workplace. That is the tool to ensure that persons with disability are effectively accommodated at workplaces. They are given the accommodative approaches to ensure that they deliver quality at work, and the retention bit of employment of persons with disability. Asante sana. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to bring the next speakers. And this session will be led ably by one of our own at Light for the World. It's a storytelling session, the essence of effective accommodation of persons with disability, leadership through employment, ensuring that persons with disability given the accommodative approaches to ensure that they effectively perform and deliver that which they've been employed for. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome Faustina. Faustina is one of the staff at Light for the World. She will be able to effectively call on board her co-panelists. Faustina, as you come, please prepare to introduce your panelists. And yes, music will be creating the interludes. Karibu sana, Faustina.
Sasa, DJ, umeniangusha. You know, where I come from, and I've been called to the stage, I like to make a dramatic entrance. So you did give me music, you know, to shake what my mama gave me. But it's fine. It is fine. It was already shaken. Did you see the dancers? Did you enjoy? But none of you was moving. Why? Why were you not moving? Yeah, with them, and the way they were doing it so well. Anyway, it's fine. DJ, next time, I'll give you another chance. So, as my colleague has just mentioned, I have been given the honors of leading a panel, but it's good you know who I am. Sindio, I'm not just beautiful and talk. There's more to me, right? So, I'm coming after somebody who has done law. Therefore, please, my English is not like him, okay? But at least it went through school. And he's done a fantastic job of just simplifying inclusion, especially on reasonable accommodation. Hadi, I'm feeling like, will I really match up? But it doesn't matter. Me, I'm just here to facilitate as a panelist. So therefore, I can say who I am with all the courage in the world. So my name is Faustina Ninga, and I work for Light for the World under the leadership of Lucy and Richard. And I support Light for the World on matters on economic empowerment, whereby employment is one of them. I think that is sufficient. The rest, see me in camera, okay? Right, so I've been given the chance to lead a panel on power talks. They have to be power talks, powerful stories, because they are real stories, not Jabba. It's not Paukwa Pakawa moments, okay? Real stories, and these real stories are basically coming from people who have been innovative in their places of work, people who have shown the energy and they have shown ability. In fact, if you look at the program, it's written Power Talks, and the Power Talks are about leadership with ability. Huh? Leadership with? I don't like boring crowds, you know. When I was in high school, I was in drama, so I like to, energy. Leadership with? Leadership with? If you don't say it well, you won't have tea. Anyway. So, we're not here to talk about limitations, guys. We're here to talk about what leadership is all about. Living proof that ability, not defined by what you lack, but ability based on what your mind dares to do and what the spirit is willing to do. And so, I want to powerfully introduce my panel, starting with Ben Rose Mutevia. Ben Rose is in the house. Where's Ben Rose? Huh? DJ. Last year. Huh? So Ben Rose is a passionate disability inclusion advocate whose lived experience with hydrocephalus drives her commitment to promoting dignity, awareness, and equal opportunities for persons with disabilities. She works at the Sandbox Ubuntu. You know what Sandbox is? Google it. Sandbox, supporting entrepreneurs in the creative sector, where she integrates practical disability inclusion strategies into programs, training, and community engagement. She is also actively involved in youth-led advocacy through UDPK and Light for the World, championing accessibility and amplifying the leadership of young people with disabilities. Ish, siu madam amefanya mambo. Huh? Those are your flowers. Second, Jacqueline Osoro. Jackie, where is Jackie? Where is Jackie? Jacqueline Osoro, please join us on stage. She is a client center retention officer at Standard Chartered Bank, skilled in customer support, conflict resolution, and client retention in high volume environments. If you don't have the loan, go to her. You know, she holds a bachelor's degree in special education and a master's degree in education psychology, and has facilitated counseling sessions focused on visual impairment and curriculum adaptation. In her free time, she enjoys listening to music, reading, and personal reflection. Ish. See, huh? Thank you, thank you. I know you're getting the hang of it, eh? Good. And then lastly, Judith Evelyn Ochomo. Where is Judith? Yeah? Yeah? There is Judith. Yeah? Actually, I sit very close to Judith, yeah, in the office. She is an administrator and a mother of 3 who works with Light for the World as a personal aid to her son, Brian, a young adult with nonverbal autism. Such a fun guy. Is Brian around as well? But he is well represented. She's an active member of DTSK, the founder of Mama Autism Kenya. Mama Autism, do you? Mama Autism Kenya. And the second runners-up in the 2023 Mama Autism Kenya Awards, championing caregiver recognition and autism awareness. As a self-made advocate, she is passionate about disability inclusion and believes in the importance of caregiver healing to empower children to thrive. So there you have it, guys. Such a solid panel, right? Is it a solid panel? Good. So this solid panel will take us through a powerful moment, right? Where they're going to share with us their stories. They're going to share with us what real leadership and transformation is all about. So I'm going to start with the person closest to me, if you don't mind. So that is you, Judith. And we don't want to belabor these stories and get too technical over here. So we just want you to tell us, Judy, what has been your story?
Okay, thank you. I'm honored to be here. I just want to say that many times life throws challenges our way that we are unprepared for. And when that happens, we fall into confusion. We are scared of the future. Parenting a person with disability is not a walk in the park. It comes with a lot of challenges. It is overwhelming and at times emotional. My journey started when my son was 3 years old. I took him to the doctor, and after all the tests, the doctor told me that my son is okay, that his IQ was so high, too high for his age. But what baffled me was the doctor told me that my son ni vitu vya nyumbani in Kiswahili. So I left not knowing that he was autistic. Then fast forward when he was 6, that is when I took him for assessment. He had regressed in his speech. He had acquired speech and then it got lost. So that is when I heard the word autism for the first time when he was 6. At that time, I had taken him to 3 schools. The second school, it was a Catholic school, my dream school for him, but he was dismissed after 2 terms. The sisters there told me that my son is possessed, that I should look for a powerful man of God to pray for him. So fast forward at 10, I took him to boarding, his first boarding experience. I was almost going into depression. I had lost my second child. So a psychologist recommended that I take him to boarding. Then later he joined Jacaranda School. He was there for several years, and then he was now on vocational, and there was no exit strategy. My healing journey started when I joined DTSK. It is a psychosocial group for parents, caregivers, and siblings with autism. And there I realized that I was not alone in this journey. That is when I started understanding what autism was at that point. Later, when he was 18, thankfully the DTSK were rolling a program sponsored by the Australian Embassy. And when I took him there, after the interview, he was selected to do ICT. It was a pairing approach where a trainer is trained alongside his caregiver. I couldn't get anyone to go with him. I was not in active employment at that time. I was looking for a job. Then since I couldn't find anyone to go with him, that is the time I officially started living my son's life. It's like I stopped living, started living for him. We went with him to school for 1.5 years. The biggest challenge was learning in the same room with children with my son's age mate. It was a big challenge. Looking back, I don't know how I pulled it, but I thank God. We later went to Kirdi attachment together, and then we went back to NITA for the final semester. He did well. He got his first class in ICT, and then we were later recommended for the Week and Work program by Light for the World. We went, and thankfully he was selected. We did the program for 6 weeks to 2 months, and then luckily again for him, he was absorbed at Light for the World. He's now an intern at Light for the World as a data entry officer, and I am working alongside him as his personal aide. He does analysis, and my main role, I interpret for him. He imports in Excel and does presentations in PowerPoint. Now, the biggest challenge he has is to make theoretical interpretation of the data, and that is where I come in. I hope in future he will know. So we don't know what next after Light for the World, but we are hopeful for the future. Thank you.
Wow, that is amazing, and I'll come back to you because it's a whole, yeah. Let me just move to my next speaker. That is Jacqueline Osoro. You are at Stanchart. It's a corporate, and we know how banks operate. I'm sure your story is also one for the books. Could you just tell us, how has it been?
Wow. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
All right. So mine, I don't know where to begin. But one thing is that, okay, I'm a person with visual impairment, but I was not born blind. So my sight started going when I was about 2 years. And my parents always tell me they just discovered that I started knocking myself into surfaces and walls, and they didn't know what was going on. And they had to take me to hospital. And that's when they were told that my optic nerve has been damaged. I have suffered trauma. It's like from one of the many falls as a child. And then they said that they will operate on me when I was 4 years old. But by the time I was 4, my sight had already completely gone. So they were told to just take me to school. So the school they had to take me to was the Thika School for the Blind, because it was the only school they could take me at that particular time. And it was a challenge, especially for them, because first of all, it was a boarding school. And taking a young child to a boarding school really didn't augur well with them. And even for me, I really didn't get to understand, because I had an older brother who used to be in a day school. And I used to think that my parents have really hated me so much that is why they've taken me to a boarding school. And I remember one time confronting my mom, and she was tongue-tied. She didn't know what to tell me. And then anyway, later on, 5 years down the line, when I was in class 4, there was an integration integrated program that had begun in Kilimani Primary School. So my parents transferred me from Thika and I went to Kilimani. And it was a whole new transition from a school for the blind to a regular school where I was the only one in my class that was blind. And I had to take a full year out to try to transition because I had to be trained on how to type so that my teachers can read my work. I had to be trained on how to use the Braille machine. We didn't used to use that in Thika school. And just for the transition bit of it, so I can't say I wasted a whole year, but I had to repeat the following year to class 4 to be integrated into the classroom. And interestingly enough, I started performing and competing with my classmates. And I remember the integration program coordinator one day came to class and asked me, okay, he told me, I can see you are a very bright student. And he told me, do you realize that when you're in Thika School for the Blind, you are put in a special class? And I asked him, what? He said, yeah, you were put in a special class. And I think if you still continued in that school, it would have been wasted. I said, I thank God that you located me and fished me out. So anyway, I went through Kilimani, and after that, I went to Moi Girls School, Nairobi. And then after that, I went to KU, where I did my first degree. KU was also, all these transitions, they're all integrated. And one challenge with integration is that we have to mainly depend on readers because there are no books for written in Braille. Most books are not Brailled, so we depended mostly on readers. And I thank God that, especially like in campus, the people who had volunteered to come and read for us. And we also had made timetables, schedules that they would come and read for us at one particular time. And then people were very friendly, they were very accommodating. But one thing I realized, because most of these people have not lived with people with a challenge or people with disabilities, it is usually a person with disability who tries to, let me say, help us. We usually have to know, tell them or orient them on how to help us. So after campus, after my first degree, I remember my father insisted I have to go back for master's. And in my master's class, we were only 4 students. And I remember in my first class, my lecturer came in. And like us, we are usually very peculiar. We usually sit in front. And I remember I was seated in front. I have my Braille machine. He just walked in and he looked at me, and I think he was surprised. He didn't know. Actually, he asked me, how do I teach you? And I told him, you just teach me the way you teach the rest. And he sat down. He was silent for a minute, but he started teaching. And he realized I was grasping like the rest. And when he was giving continuous assessment tests, I was performing like everyone else. So he realized that I was just like everyone else. There was no much difference. And he became comfortable and even trading me with the rest. And I remember one of the challenge that we had as persons with visual impairment, especially in campus, when you do education, there's a course we call statistics. We are not usually so good with mathematics and statistics and such, because most of the work is usually visual. It is usually done on the blackboard. So it becomes very difficult to follow when the teacher or lecturer is working it out. So I remember when I was in campus, I decided I won't fail this subject. So I engaged my lecturer, and she told me she'd be giving me extra classes. She was very good. She gave actually, we are several of us, several tests. I think we did more than 10 continuous assessment tests because she said she wanted to pick the best. And I thank God at the end of it all, I got an A in the statistics. And another challenge I got that I have not said, when I was in high school, I had a math teacher. Remember I told you I went to a regular school. So, because of course math is always taught on the board, I couldn't be able to follow. So I remember one day I approached him and asked him, can we have extra classes at least so that you can be able to take me through as an individual? And he told me, I was never taught to teach you people. So you find your own way of working it out. And it was difficult. So for me, I can say from Form 1 to Form 4, I really didn't do math. But when I was about to do my KCSE, there's a classmate of mine who approached me and told me, I believe, Jackie, you're very bright. And I know if I take my time and we come for classes every day after class, I know you'll be able to do something. And she committed herself. And I remember when I finally did my KCSE, I thought I'll get an E or a D. But interestingly enough, I got a C. So, come to the world of work. When I finished my campus, one difficult thing for a person with disabilities is getting a job. I sent enough CVs and application letters, but you couldn't even get a regret back telling you that you're not even qualified or we cannot accommodate you because of such and such. So, and I remember there is a time when you finish campus, there's usually an alumni page on the web. Someone got my name and my contact, and they called me up and asked me if I could go to their offices. There's a job they want to give me. But one thing I told them, do you know I'm a person with visual impairment? He told me no. So I told him, maybe you give me direction, then when I come, we can be able to discuss and see the way forward. I'm telling you, he never called back. But anyway, and then I tried to apply with the TSC. Had been taken up with the TSC after my first degree, but they took me to a vocational rehabilitation in Oyugis, which I reported to. But the headmaster in that rehabilitation center refused to take me up. He said they are overstaffed. So he wrote a letter back to TSC, which I came back with. And the TSC guys told me, go back home and wait for a little while, and we'll call you back. So interestingly enough, the same position I was sent for in Oyugis was advertised in the newspaper 2 weeks later. And I was called by the TSC to go back to the same place. And then I was thinking, I've already been sent back. The headmaster has already rejected me. Then how will I go back? And at the same time, I was supposed to join in for my master's. And I got someone to sponsor me. So I was like in an approach kind of conflict. I need to go back to Oyugis for the job. I need to go back for my master's. But when I sat down with myself, I realized, because they had told me you can go back to teach for 2 years, then you can take a study leave. But I asked myself, after the 2 years, whoever has decided to sponsor me, I don't know whether they'll still be available. So I decided to go back to school. So when I went back to school, I finished. After finishing school, I went back to TSC, and they told me I refused to take up my employment, so they cannot take me back. And I was stranded. So it forced me I decided to take legal action. Actually, I went to the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, and they wrote a letter to TSC to compel them to appoint me. And when I was at the office of the National Council, I found them calling people up for a workshop of employability. And I asked them, what makes one qualify for the workshop? And they told me they just need a CV. And I asked them, can I drop my CV then so that I can come for the workshop? And they said, there's no problem. You drop your CV and you see what you can do. So I dropped my CV and they called me for the workshop the following week. So after that, 3 months down the line, I got a call from nowhere. I was just in the house. I got a call, and the person on the other side asked, is this Jackie? Yes. I'm so and so. I'm calling from Standard Chartered Bank, and we'd like you to come for an interview on Thursday. That was on Tuesday. I've never applied in Standard Chartered Bank. It's a place I never thought of even working in, because I didn't know even what I could do in the bank, because my profession is education. But anyway, I went for the interview, and I passed the interview, and they took some time to prepare for us, because they had decided to take a few of us for employment, a few of us persons with visual impairment. And after 3 months, we were taken in. And I remember when I came and I saw my letter of appointment, one thing that one person, that is usually a place of curiosity, is to check your salary. And then I checked my salary, and I actually asked, this is the starting salary, right? Is it possible for you to adjust it higher? Because for me, as a person with visual impairment, we usually have many needs. I have to think of how I'll be going to work. I need to think of a guide. And you know, this guide, you have to pay for them fare. You need to at least pay them something small, maybe at the end of the month. So I just requested, can you at least think of adjusting the salary higher? And they were very graceful, they were very gracious, and they actually did. And they almost doubled the salary. And yeah, we got in. Yeah, and I remember the person who took us in, she didn't even know whether we could be able to access the systems, so that that will enable us to work. But we said, let us get in and see. I had very good bosses, and when we got in, and we usually used to work together. We used to ask him, come and log in your system in our computers, and we see whether we can be able to access. And when we realized that we could access is when they were able to install and give us rights to access the system. And for me, working in Standard Chartered Bank, it has been a very friendly environment. Of course, when we began, it was not very easy, and especially with our colleagues, they had not worked with persons with visual impairment before, let alone people with disabilities. So I remember we had to orient them on how to assist us, and when we need help and when we don't need help. We had to learn our way around, for how to get to our offices, how to get out. Yeah. And
sorry, I'm sorry, my dear. Just want to tell you, have a minute so that we can move to the next speaker. Such a beautiful story, but go on.
So anyway, at the end of it all, they were able to accommodate us. We were able to help each other. And even at this time, we have that kind of, let me say, a symbiotic kind of relationship. We help them where we can. They help us where they are able to. And it's a good experience. We've come this far. And yeah, that's my story.
That was indeed such a beautiful story. I actually feel guilty for having interrupted her because I wanted to know what's next, accessing bank systems. Anyway, thank you so much for that story. And then lastly, we come to you, Ben Rose. And unfortunately, just try and keep it within 3 minutes. I'll cue you once the 3 minutes are up. Please share with us your story.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Hello. I'm Ben Rose, as you've heard. I am a person with hydrocephalus. I was not born with hydrocephalus. I acquired it. And most people, when you acquire a disability, your body changes, your life changes. It's something new that has come up in your life. So after I acquired hydrocephalus, by then I didn't know it was a disability. I was just living life like, I have a condition and that's all. But when I was growing up, I encountered some barriers or some challenges. Some in school. You find that I used to encounter a lot of concentration level thing, whereby my concentration levels used to go down. And again, when we used to go for, me and my mom, when we used to go for checkups, I found it weird that I had to explain this condition that I have to the doctors. I'm like, you're the doctor. You should be able to tell like what I have. So as I continue to grow, I realized that hydrocephalus is something that is not commonly known actually with people, and people don't know more about hydrocephalus. And I think that's what led me even to advocacy, to be able to raise awareness for it so that people can have knowledge about hydrocephalus and what it's all about. And I completed school, and after completing school, like many people, like what are you going to do with your life now that you're done with school? So I was just living life and saying, you have your own list of what you want to do after school. But again, someone tells me, oh, there's this program, you can maybe go into it and as you wait for school to come. So I applied for weekend work, and lucky enough, I got accepted. I usually tell people this story. The first day when we got on the training, I was like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I even here? I should be out there looking for a job, applying for jobs, and here I am sitting, trying in a training. But on that same day, I got to realize that I'm in You Can Work for a purpose, for something different. Because I got to understand that I really did not know much about my disability, or even me myself as a person with disability, I did not know much. But through the Weekend Work program, I got to learn much about my disability. And even with that, I got to understand that it's important as well to voice the voice of other people. As they voice their voice, you listen and you help them voice it. Because sometimes you find that, yes, not everyone is in that opportunity that you are in, that they can be able to speak up for themselves. So I got also in the advocacy program through the Weekend Work program. And from there, I've learned a lot from it. And even with that, it has helped me with what I do at Sandbox. By the way, through Light for the World, through the Weekend Work program, is when I also got the opportunity to be at Sandbox. So Sandbox has been a journey, a very interesting one, because we are currently running a program where we empower creatives with entrepreneurship skills. And you find that we also want to be inclusive, but many organizations don't know how to accommodate persons with disability. So even as I'm there, I am making an impact on helping the organization involve persons with disability. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Benrose. A round of applause for her. Well, as you've all heard, these are very beautiful stories, and none has had the easiest journey, but it has been a learning experience. Diamonds are formed in the dirtiest of muds, in the hardest of conditions, but here we are with a panel full of diamonds that have shown what resilience is. So just a quick fire round so that we can close this session and maybe open up to 1 or 2 comments from the audience. And I'll start with you, Jackie. And it's the same question for everyone in the panel. What is your 1 or 2, let me call it a clarion call, when it comes to resilience for employers? Because like what Jackie said, sometimes you have to help them to be able to help you to survive the conditions within the workplace, because they're different. It's coming from a place of no knowledge, right? So what has been your secret on that resilience, especially in the workplace? Starting with you, Jackie. Just one, in the interest of time, before Collins chucks me out of here.
Okay, one major challenge for people with disabilities is the mindset of the society. And it really takes, I can't say hard, okay, let me say hard work to change that mindset. And as a person with disability, it really has, okay, for me, as in it's like we have to always prove ourselves that we can be able to do it. And most of the time it falls back on us. We have to prove ourselves and make the society believe that we are able to make it. So even in the place of employment, we may have potential, but unless you prove that you can be able to make it, that employer may not believe that you're able to make it. And I can imagine that many people who thought that we will not make it through Standard Chartered Bank. But for me, it's 12 years down the line, and I'm still there.
12 years down the line, and you can see. And she's looking so radiant, right? What about you, Benrose?
For me, I'll say the challenge that persons with disability face is not being heard. And for my call actually to employers is to listen. And I think that's one thing that that Sandbox got right, if I may say, that they open their ears to listen, not from other organizations, but from us. So even as employers, you can listen to the persons with disabilities. Because most often, we try to make decisions for persons with disabilities and not involving them as much as possible. So listen to them.
Thank you. And Lawrence has reminded us about nothing about us without us, right?
Yeah.
So flowers to Joram. And lastly, Judith, what is that clarion call on resilience at the workplace?
From a caregiver point of view, I can say the resilience part comes with love. As in, these children can do a lot more. They can achieve a lot in life if you give them that unfiltered love, that unfiltered support. And then just to add something, at Light for the World, we have felt really included, really included. My son is at home. It has been 1 year plus, and he has grown, and even his colleagues can attest to that. He has grown. He's not the way he came. So inclusion should be, the employers should be intentional about inclusion. From a caregiver point of view, inclusion means that I, as a caregiver, can be part of a community, of a workplace, without my caregiving role limiting my opportunities and my dignity. So thank you, Light for the World.
Wow. I'm more than proud to be associated with Light for the World. Hi guys, my name is Faustina and I work at Light for the World. So, as you can see, our MC has moved closer, you know. So I'll reduce the number of questions and just maybe pick one comment from the audience. Anyone who would like to ask a question or...
Okay, my name is Arnold. Even I have come through Light for the World. No many fungulia Dibia Sara. So my question was, you as a caregiver, okay, how do you feel? As in, how do you feel when you see your child being empowered? See, because you know you're not there for him or her for the rest of his or her life. He has to stand for himself. So how do you feel leaving him like right now, simemwata peke yake? How do you feel? Because now you know I got responsible. How do you feel? And for the other self-advocates like me, after all that journey, okay, I personally I've passed through that journey. Sadly, from the day I was born till now. So I don't know their experience. Okay, maybe this girl Jacqueline in the South, Jacqueline. Jacqueline. Apart from Jacqueline, najua amekuwa kama mimi juu amezaliwa nayo. Ben Rose ameadapt, si ndio? How did you take watu waki? It is your first time watu wana ku neglect, si ndio? Watu wana ku unaccept. Life is changing, si ndio? Neighbor alikuwa na kuongelesha, siku hizi kuongeleshangi, si ndio? Siku hizi hataki vibes zako. Sasa step to new generation like us. How do you feel? How do you take it?
Yeah.
Life?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that question. And in the interest of time, I would love all the panelists to be able to respond to that question, but we'll only stick to one person. If you don't mind, try and cover the rest for the sake of time.
Okay.
Yes, Judith, of course.
I can say I am grateful that I can leave him at home and I'm not worried. I've done a lot of, I was introduced as a self-made autism advocate. I do a lot of advocacy. We come with him with PSV, public service vehicle. So at times we are even misunderstood by the passengers when he has a sensory overload. So I always work with these cards. Can read? I always work with these cards. I give someone who starts asking, "Uyu nae ni nini?" and all that. So this one has helped me. In future, I know I might not be there up to when he is aged and all that, but I am doing my part. I've reached a point that I don't want to think beyond when I'm not there. I am doing my part, and I say, so help me God. When I am not there, God will take care of the rest. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Judith. And I'll ask the panelists if you don't mind seeing Arnold later so that we can address some of the concerns that he has raised, and he's sharing his own experience. I encourage you to, if you can, look for Judith as well and check out these cards and what she has actually written here. It becomes easier to integrate in the community. So there you have it, guys. These are stories from a panel of ladies. Let's start by the fact that they are ladies and very beautiful, sharing their own stories within the workplace and how they have braved the challenges, either supporting or being a person with disability. I believe they deserve a very, very solid clap. Sasa, I don't speak Collins language, so sijui nitaklap aje. Yeah, I don't understand the words. So could you mind helping me with the clapping?
And actually, you are part of the recipients of the clap. So, ladies and gentlemen, quite powerful. The stories are quite engaging. We have seen how persons with disability have broken the barriers to meaningful and consistent jobs. They are now comfortable in their workplaces. They've broken all these barriers. We have a responsibility to ensure that persons with disability are accommodated in these job places. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't say more. Powerful from the moderator. Actually, I fear that the next time she's going to grab the mic from me if I don't do it well here. Powerful moderation. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, Mil Polo, the lightning, Mil Polo, more Polo. Thank you very much. Asante sana. So, before you leave the stage, I have the honor of joining you for a group photo. This is the best thing that MCs have. Co-MC, come around. We need a group photo with this powerful panel.
And then, of course, mkono mtupu haulambwi. Kwa hivyo, we have a few gifts for you that Dora will distribute, just to say thank you so much for honoring our invitation.
Asanteni sana kwa kukubali pia kutupa hadithi zenu zenye zinatia motisha kwa Kiswahili imepotea. Thank you very much for your powerful stories that motivate employers in this house to ensure that inclusion work in these workplaces. Asante sana. Can we smile for the photo? Which camera? I can see lots of them. I want to give the best to the best camera. Ladies and gentlemen, as we take this powerful photo, I have the honor of inviting you to interact with the social media. Apparently, I'm told there's a gift for the most interactive posts. So you can do a selfie, you can do the creative moment, post it on social media, make it powerful, let it interact. Our comms department has organized a special gift for the most interactive. Thank you very much. Asante sana kwa smile zenyu, kwa powerful talks. I know. Oh, bado jaisha. Oh, sawa. Sema hiyo. Apparently we need to re-energize. Tunataka nguvu zaidi ndiposa turudi. I know Faustine is coming back with another powerful talk session. This now will engage the employers who have practiced inclusion. They are like giving us case studies, best practice on how inclusive employment works. Watch out for part 2 of the Power Talk. Where is tea, Co-MC? Chai imepotea.
So guys, tuko na 2 stations za chai. Just outside here we have 1 station and we have another station at this door. So we will just divide ourselves. This group will just use that door so that we can get tea, and this other side will just get tea. for 25 minutes only. 25 minutes for tea. Thank you.